Hey everybody, welcome to Wargroove. In this video, I'm going to be going over the start of the Swiss qualifiers for Groove of War 6. The first match we're going to do is Sejun versus Ziel, but before we get into that, let's talk about the qualifiers and take a look at who's competing. Alright, I'm going to switch over to the Smash GG page. So, the Eastern time zone is known as the time zone of way too many people. I think in Groove of War 5, we had a ton of people competing in Eastern, and remember, only 2 people from each time zone can qualify for those sweet, sweet World Tournament slots. We've got previous World Champion Red Jams, that's going to be highly competitive. Mohilder, a very veteran player who knows what they're doing. Pedient, they did pretty well in the last tournament. Kal-El, same there. I saw Billy Bones in Groove of War 5. Lewis 7. M went pretty far, and DPSI. These are all veteran players who know the game. I'm thinking that the favorite here is definitely Red Jams. But there are a lot of good players here, a lot of players who've been improving. I'm going to say that M is actually a rising star on the ranked ladder. They've been doing pretty well lately, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table this tournament. Now, while Eastern time zone is way too many people, the GMT time zone is a little bit of the time zone of death. A lot of really good players are consolidated there. We've got Sequoia and Sejun, 2 players who were fighting for that champion slot in the last tournament. These guys are scary. StarGen 45, master of the quick play scene. And we also have a Valder and Sigrid role player entering, representing Wargroove role-playing community. We have Emo Tarquin Chappington, frequent. You might have seen them in some of my videos. They're an amazing modder and map creator. Ziel, I haven't seen them before, but I'm looking forward to their fight with Sejun, and GP27 was in GoW5. AWST, I think, it's a little bit small. Spottius did really well making it to the top 8 last time. I think Spottius is looking pretty good. But Searing Blight, I don't remember seeing them in Groove of War 5, but they are a very good player. I'm excited to see how well they do. Then, of course, we have GoW1 champion Ash and Vito, 2 veterans that were in the game since the beginning, and Miki I do not recognize. I'm interested to see how this goes. Then we've got the PST time zone. We've got Cleaner Code, who was a master of the Eastern time zone in the previous tournament. T-Tam, another rising star. T-Tam is somebody I'm rooting for. They're a newer player, but have been doing really, really well. Then, of course, we have the famous Mr. Cat and Cat Memes, and OO Trillions. So some interesting and recognizable names in these pools. Alright, now let's just really quick touch on bans. So far in the first round, Vesper has been banned 20 times and Valder 16 times. Those are the most common bans by far. Not a lot of Sedge bans. Sedge has only been banned 3 times, but this first map is not a Sedge map, making it a little bit unique among the maps this season. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Alright, let's get into the first game. I've kept you guys waiting long enough. Sejun versus Ziel. There we go! Sejun versus Ziel. Let's do this. Alright, in the teal corner, we have Sejun playing Emmerich. I guess Sedge was busy, so they sent one of their generals on this particular mission. I'm just gonna modify my speed, guys, to make this, yep, default, good, very watchable. Alright. And it's an Emmerich mirror. Ziel is also playing Emmerich in the red. I haven't seen Sejun play a lot of Emmerich. Of course, they're famous for their Sedge plays. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to see some exciting stuff this game. Incidentally, I do have animations turned on to slow down the game a little bit and give me a chance to talk. But I might just skip through them most of the time, so if you see me rapidly skipping animations, that's why. Alright, this map is called Theft in 19 by 19, and it's incredibly fun with a lot of different openings. Though I will say I've seen player 1 be particularly strong, so just something to keep in mind as they're fighting it out. There might possibly, I'm not sure, just my opinion, be a little bit of an advantage for player 1. Meaning Sejun might have the edge in this match, but it's hard to say. Both players are making a thief and a wagon, which will enable them to steal from their opponent's villages and get some sweet, sweet gold out of that. We see Sejun being classic Sejun, despite not having Sej, killing their commander very early, playing very aggressively, and plopping that thief into a nice early position. Sej has captured their tower, almost all their local villages, and is building a mage. Classic Sejun. We see Ziel doing almost the exact same thing. In fact, they're mirroring Sej almost perfectly, except they sent their commander across instead of down. We'll see that whether that was a big brain move or maybe a mistake. Sejun is not afraid of the thief and captures all the villages near the thief. Probably thinking, the thief will get one of them, but I'll get the econ for the rest. Sejun really fearless with that thief cap there. And uses the wagon to defend it from the right side. Very nice. Ziel doing a similar thing with their thief wagon combo and also grabbing villages. But important to note, Sejun got this side village over here and was able to flip the more middle village with their commander. Ziel was only able to flip the middle village and did not get the side village kind of down at the bottom here. You can't quite see it. So this is kind of what I mean by the player one has a bit of an advantage, because the side village is going to be an extra bonus for Sejun during this game. However, both players are dead even on economy. So, you know, I will say that sending the commander across and recapturing this village wasn't a bad play. Oh, but clever. Sejun uses the mage crit to take out the newly captured village. Very nice. Which is going to give Sej just a slight eco lead. Their thief is really damaged. It looks like both players took a bit of damage in the thieving. But a damaged thief can still operate normally like a regular thief, so that's not going to be too bad for our Seji friend. We see Ziel is determined to hold on to these villages, but unfortunately they were forced to retreat a little bit as they were outnumbered by Sej's very aggressive army. We see the clever dog build just go over the mountain, allowing it to deploy instantly into the fight, and Sej is able to overwhelm the forces on the right side, healing up their swords, and not quite attacking this village, just repositioning to attack it on a later turn. Mage crit immediately takes out that sword. That crystal is getting its worth, and Sej proving that they do in fact know how to play Emmerich. We see Ziel just trying to retake that side village, but they just can't do it. They're struggling on the right as well, and they're being forced to retreat on all fronts. I think they're pushed back a little bit too much, and building mages into knights isn't going to get you a whole lot. But there's not much they can do. Sejun has clever pikes positioned to ward off the knights, mages that can attack everything else, and more than enough infantry. I think Sejun has very good map control here. And is building even more pikes to deal with their opponent's knights, despite the archer. Oh, we see Emmerich going in to take out a village and just wild knight crit on the HQ. That knight can totally go down, but Sejun doesn't care. They have 3 mages, and Wargroove is up again. Very scary. Ziel going into Sej, trying to drive them off that HQ, just doing lots of damage to the commander with all possible units, but the archer can't reach that knight. Builds a dragon and is going all in to try to defend. Can Sejun take the game right here? We see a deposit, and Sejun has 2,300 gold this turn. That's insane. Using the previous crystal, not even the new crystal, to just get sweet, sweet mage crits, obliterating those knights, taking out the sword. Sejun's Emmerich play is amazingly spot on right now. Emmerich retreats and plants another crystal and uses the wagon to protect their commander. With the wagon flagstone combo, even that dragon will have a tough time reaching Sejun's commander. Really great plays by Sejun. I'd say they're definitely far ahead, but the plays they're making have nothing to do with that. This is 100% amazing map positioning, and just general awesome Emmerich play. I've seen Emmerichs that get groove and just don't know what to do with it. Me. But Sejun is definitely showing that they know what they're doing. Unfortunately, I don't think Ziel can come back from this position, so I'm going to speed up the game a little bit, but I could be wrong. There's always a chance for a surprise lethal, especially on Sejun, who occasionally misplaces their commander, occasionally once in a while. great use of knights and swords to sort of damage off the mages. And lots of really powerful units on Ziel's side. They can maybe fish for a lethal or try to push things back, but Sejun is climbing village after village. They're taking every village across the map, and they have almost double their opponent's economy. Really incredible plays by Sejun right here. We see Knight crit into Knight, really nicely done. It went through a crystal and a bunch of other units just to make that happen, and huge protective formation around Emmerich so that they don't lose their commander. Ziel just trying to break Sej's line here, using some mages of their own to try to do some damage, but they just don't have enough power to really penetrate into Sejun's line. Thief gets a steal, that's nice if it can get away, just driving every possible unit into Sejun to try to break this line. I don't think it's going to work, though. Sejun healing their mages, and we have a War of the Crystals right here. It's interesting. Can Sej actually end the game? Yes! Using a sword crit to do it. Really nicely played. I have to say, Sejun did have the edge from the beginning of that game, but they closed it out really well. They snowballed really well. That's hard to do. Alright, let's take a look at another game. I want to see Red Jams versus Lewis. Red Jams has been a force in the ranked ladder. I think they're very, very close. Arguably, RNG lost to Sequoia in the previous World Tournament. Made them ever more determined to prove themselves, to get to the world stage again, and show that even in Wargroove 2, even with all these new competitive players, they're still world champion material. I'm really excited to see Red Jams. And we have a Sej! Keep in mind, Red Jams is in the red. They do change their username. So I try to call out the names so you know who's who. And of course, Lewis is Lewis in the blue. Lewis is playing Valder. These are two very good players, and these are two commanders I put S rank on my Season 6 tier list. So all is well in my predictions. Incidentally, I said this was not a Sej map, but Red Jams is fearlessly playing Sej anyway. And I think that's a fine choice, even if it's not a Sej map. Sej certainly has some power. But I will say that while this is not a Sej map, it's a little bit of a Valder map. I don't think Valder has ever had any dominating plays on 19 by 19, but they certainly have some options, especially with the new Thief meta in Theft in 19 by 19. Alright, we once again see the Thief Wagon opening. It's a very good opening. I think we're going to see that from a lot of players on this map. And sure enough, we see Lewis doing the same thing, early Thief Wagon. Thief goes into the wagon, you move it with the sword as far forward as possible, and then you can threaten a bunch of villages. It's a really nice thing to do, and this is the little bit of an advantage because you see P1 already has their swords defending this side village, so it's a little bit harder for P2 to get to that side village than it is for P1. I think that's why P1 has a little bit of an advantage on this map. We'll see. I know there's been some talk about changing the map and some talk about counterplay. Personally, I think there's FTA, but either way, the map will stay as is for the Swiss rounds, and then if there's an issue, it'll get changed before the actual tournament. We see Red Jams grabbing an early village and getting some early Sej Groove. Very nice. I kind of want to see how much Groove Charge Sej has. It should be, yep, 45%, so that'll be 50 at the end of their turn, which is halfway to Groove. Valder actually just capturing this without the Thief and rotating the Thief around. Yeah, that's a good way to get the side village, actually. Just capture it without using the Thief and then rotate the Thief. Now, this will mean, because Red Jams actually denied the steal, that they won't lose the 300 gold, and it becomes 600 gold difference if you can deposit it. But on the other hand, Lewis was able to secure the village and still has a Thief. They can still steal from another village unless Red Jams can deny it. So lots of big brain plays there. You can see the Thief edging in on this village and maybe this one, trying to get a steal. And Lewis is sending their Valder across the map. Oh, going really, really deep here to get a sword crit on a sword. That might be a little bit too deep because there are a lot of dogs and swords in the area, and you really don't want to give Sejun a lot of fighting. Also, notice that Red Jams already has a golem. They've been building deliberately cheap units in order to get a golem out very quickly. We see that really nice dog crit setup on the sword. That's a one-shot. If you've seen my one-shot video, you know that's a really powerful technique so you don't have to damage the sword. And Red Jams is just going in with full force, doing tons of damage, absolutely tons of damage. It's amazing how much they actually got out of this exchange using just a couple of swords and dogs. And they're even attacking Valder with a suicide, nonetheless. They're giving Valder groove again, but it doesn't matter. Valder's just like, I don't care. I'll take the groove, thank you, and I'll keep fighting. We see the Thief does get the steal off. That'll help even the gold advantage. And Lewis drops some pikes near their HQ, but the pikes are a little bit too far from this fight. And I don't like that sword attack. It's getting really close to that golem. I feel like Lewis is fighting too close to Sej's army, and Sej will just have more troops near the fight. Look, Lewis has most of their army up here. It's not going to be able to participate. And they didn't get as many kills in the counterattack as Red Jams got. They didn't do as much damage. Also, Sej is now able to approach the fight. And Sej is going to be able to start farming groove of their own. Yeah, sure enough, Sej gets a village decap and is going in with the dogs. I'm not sure if I like this forest dog attack. I mean, they could have just killed it with a dog crit, right? Yeah, the sword survives with quite a bit of health. There was no kill there. And they're going for the dog anyway. I don't know. That might have been a mistake on Red Jam's part, or maybe they deliberately wanted to damage the dog on the right so that they could suicide it in. It's hard to say. Either way, Red Gem's Thief is about to deposit. They've got a golem here. I'm sorry, they have two golems here. This is not great for Valder. They're looking kind of surrounded. What's really needed is a lethal on Sej. If Lewis gets a lethal on Sej here, maybe they can claim the game. But they might need some high rolls for that. We see a sword crit come in on the dog. We see a dog attack coming in on the dog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no knight crit available, unfortunately. 3 sword suicide into Sej, just 5 damage, respectable. We see the knight go in. That should do an average, yeah, that did some decent damage as well. Mage coming out. The mage might have been a little bit of a lower roll. I think this would only work with all high rolls, actually. I think it would require all high rolls to kill. Yeah, Sej survives with just a little bit of health, and Lewis surrenders. Great game. I think ultimately Lewis didn't have to go that deep. They were able to equalize the econ. If they had held out a little bit longer, they could have equalized the steel too. They were pumping out swords with Wargroove. I think they just went a little bit too deep into Red Gem's territory, and Red Gem's made some really nice trades to take advantage of that. Let's take a look at the next game. I want to see Sigrid versus Valder, and I'll tell you why. Everybody knows Sejun as the PvP role player. But you guys might not know Ryle Xander, aka Valder, and Samtaro, aka Sigrid. And they did not leave the match code opened. Gosh darn it, guys. You've got to leave the match code opened so that folks can record and commentate. I hope they left Game 2 opened. I really want to... Alright, it looks like they didn't leave the match code opened. I guess it will remain a mystery for now, or hopefully the Groove of War was able to grab the video. Alright, we're going to jump to a different match then. Let's take a look at Sequoia versus Tarquin Chappington. And I guess you'll find out about Samtaro and Ryle Xander next round. Oh my goodness, in the yellow, we have a Mercia. Sequoia is playing Mercia and doing justice to my tier list where I said Mercia was going to be good this season. I still believe it. I think Mercia is going to be good this season. And hopefully Sequoia will prove me right there. Meanwhile, Chappington is determined to play the Requiem faction, even though they remain low tier. I think the Requiem faction will be a little bit better this season due to the new permabans and the new band format. But all the same, I think on some of the really big maps, they're going to have a lot of trouble. You know, on a map like this, Elidy's not bad. We saw lots of golems last game. Elody can steal golems. Elody can steal Mercia's golems. So it's going to be an interesting match. Now, Sequoia was one of the wild card underdogs who could possibly have won the championship in the last tournament. They did really, really well against Zeronix, who almost beat Shu. In fact, their last match against Zeronix was a little bit of an overextend, but they were winning, although they also had the turn advantage. It's complicated, but the point is Sequoia is an amazing player and does some very crazy and unique things and invents their own playstyle as they go. Tarquin is a beginner in PvP, but they've been getting better and better and better. If you've been watching them on my streams and my channel, because they show up a lot, they've been getting really good at PvP. So I'm really excited to see both of these players, and I hope they make it to Groove of War 6. Actually, I hope they don't, because then I'll have to play against them, and they might beat me. You guys should lose, gosh darn it, I love you. Alright, so we see Sequoia is not going for Thief Wagon, because like I said, Sequoia runs to the beat of their own drum. They do their own kind of thing. Sequoia is going for an early heal on Mercia, but they do not have a wagon accompanying their Thief. They're just going to try to capture everything with Mercia and swords. Meanwhile, Chappington is not healing their commander at all. Why? Because Sequoia sniped to their village with an early soldier. Did you see that? Sequoia stole the village that usually the commander heals off of. And Chappington's like, I don't care, I'm going to attack you with a low health commander anyway. Give me Groove, and I'll use my Thief to get it back. Meanwhile, Sequoia is just going crazy aggressive with every possible unit they have, stealing villages into their opponent's territory. That's an amazing opening. I love that. And they have an early knight on that side to threaten off the now low health commander. That's a really big brain opening. No one has done that yet, as far as I know. Meanwhile, Chappington's just like, I don't care. I'm going to steal from this village anyway. I'm going to use a sword crit to take out this village, and then heal my commander deep right in your knight's face. That's amazing. Both of these players are doing such big brain stuff. Unfortunately, Mercia was able to kind of body off all these units. So Sequoia will be able to push Chappington back and get the steal on that precious side village. This side village is the entire reason I think player 1 has a little bit of an advantage in this version of the map. Sequoia also just sends Mercia to attack that village and has just enough damage to guarantee kill on it. This is one heck of an opening from Sequoia. Look at this. Sequoia has Groove and is at the enemy stronghold with so much economy. Let's take a look at that economy. 400 gold over their opponent. That's just amazing right now. Chappington was able to wagon their Thief back, however, and has a little bit of a head start on Sequoia in terms of getting the Thief home. So maybe they can make up the eco difference if they can do that, but they really have to start taking villages. Sequoia was able to flip this village back, but now the knight can press forward. Sequoia's pikes are pressing forward and grabbing a defensive position, and the Thief is retreating, still without a wagon, under the cover of various swords. And now the wagon has finally appeared, and Mercy is backing off a little bit. Alright, now the real fighting starts. Chappington is able to get their Thief back, and next turn it will be able to deposit. Elodie is doing their best to hold this position, getting a sword crit on the knight, and then using another sword to trap it, and then healing all the units so that possibly the sword could maybe survive the knight's attack, and then keep the knight trapped there so Elodie could kill it. This is amazing. A dragon comes out from Sequoia. The knight is unfortunately able to take out that sword despite the heal, so that was a bit of a waste of the 300 gold there. Unfortunately for Chappington, they didn't get the roll there. Mercia just goes so deep, killing a sword right in the face of lots of enemy units. The dog goes in, and a bunch of units gather around Mercia and put one behind Mercia so she can't be surrounded. And the mage will also help prevent a surround, and the dragon will also prevent a surround, so Mercia is able to safely stand there without risk. Another sword goes into the knight, and Elodie goes into the knight, but it doesn't go down. It lives, as you can see, with 1 health. Chappington did not get the roll there, and unfortunately missed out on a lot of groove because of it. We're not seeing luck today here for Chappington. Chappington has double spear going down this side of the map with a mage. That's a pretty defensive formation that should be able to hold villages against most attacks. And they're able to finish off the dog on the top side. They build a witch to deal with the dragon and also this whole thing, and are throwing a lot of units in front of the stronghold to try to defend it against Sequoia's push. But Sequoia just fearless. Commander standing on road, piles forward, takes out the dog with Commander. Knight crits a soldier. Dragon goes into village. And Balloon is just used as a body block, and Sequoia does not care if the witch kills the Balloon because it's backed up by a mage. Really smart positioning by Sequoia. Just shuffling those soldiers slightly out of range, putting the mage a little bit deep, but ultimately it can't be one-shot. There's another mage backing it. Sequoia has a really great attack on Chappington's stronghold, and Chappington can't even hold villages on any side of the map. And they just kind of move their commander as sort of a surrender. Sequoia trying to just respectfully end the game, appreciating the surrender, and taking the GG. Well played. Now that was game 1, Sequoia versus Chappington, but like we said, player 1 might have a little bit of an advantage. I want to see game 2. Here we go. Now, Chappington playing their absolute favorite commander, Dark Mercia, in the cyan teal, kind of lightish greenish color there, versus Sequoia, who's playing one of their most famous picks, Emmerich. Now, Sequoia's Emmerich is particularly famous because of Sequoia's balloon spam strategy. The idea is you make like 5 balloons over the course of the game and shove them in your enemy's face under the power of crystal. This means that the balloons, except via mage crit, I think, cannot be one-shot, making them incredibly powerful and annoying blockers. And they're cheap too, so they're pretty much worth it. Now, Sequoia is famous for using this strategy against red jams and sort of making it extremely popular in Groove of War 5, as well as various other opponents. We see Chappington, unlike Sequoia, is going for the early wagon thief on player 1, and it's not clear if Sequoia is going to do it. They do not! Sequoia refuses to make a wagon. They're all about that balloon life. Chappington, once again though, Sequoia steals Chappington's heal village, and Chappington just decides to attack with Commander. They're doing the same thing almost, but in sort of reversed positions. I'm actually really glad they're doing the same strategy, because that'll kind of show us whether or not P1 has a bit of an edge or not. Like, does this shenanigan still work as P2 kind of thing? Alright, now the difference is, Chappington does have their side village this time. So I definitely think that P1 has a bit of an edge, because they're doing the same thing, but Chappington gets to keep their side village. And is able to flip this village, but chooses not to capture it. Very clever, to prevent Emmerich from getting groove by decapping it. That was a really big brain move by Chappington, a really high-level move, choosing not to capture a village, instead just putting a sword behind it to prevent travel through it. Very smart. Sequoia just kind of building up forces next to the village, taking advantage of Dark Mercia being at low health. And we see that Sequoia's thief has not gotten to steal anything yet, due to the lack of balloon. Chappington is going to give the thief a little bit of a target. They will capture that village, but they're moving soldiers up to sort of protect it. Then on the left side, we see the thief is going to be able to deposit soon, where Sequoia hasn't even gotten to steal yet. And Chappington is going for a sweet heal and retreating their soldiers behind Dark Mercia and the village. Emmerich can get a nice forest attack on Dark Mercia, but other than that, a pretty defensive formation. Yep, sure enough, taking advantage of the massive terrain difference to do some big damage there. And we see a nice sword crit taking out that village, combined with a balloon-themed double pike drop with dogs and a soldier. Sequoia is just stacking troops in Chappington's face, but Chappington is at 70% groove as Dark Mercia, and we haven't seen Emmerich drop a crystal yet. Definitely a much better game for Chappington so far. Chappington builds the ballista! That's amazing! A ballista is a little bit of a meme build, in the sense that it's very slow, very trolly, but it can be very powerful when used correctly. It's just not easy to do. We know that Red Jams is a fan of the ballista, Sequoia is a fan of the ballista, and now Chappington has joined their ranks. Really nice village flips by Chappington on the right side. That pike will not be able to hurt the knight. It can recapture the village, but it's putting itself a little bit of risk there. I just want to check the economy real quick. Both players are dead even. This is very different than last game, where Sequoia was just steamrolling, and in fact, Chappington's double pike drop and the Ballista have forced Sequoia to back off. We see the Ballista coming forward, and really nice knight rotation by Chappington, choosing to abandon the area near that pike and go for a different village, dealing even more economic damage to Sequoia, and then follows it up with a wagon-protected thief drop, also guarding Dark Mercia with a dog that can't be one-shot guarding the bottom side, a really, really safe positioning, and Dark Mercia has Groove. Lots of soldiers nearby, really, really smart positioning from Chappington all around, but except for that one soldier, a pike crit with a wagon, really smart pike crit, was able to take it out. And now Sequoia is rotating to kind of put pressure on the other side of the map where Dark Mercia sort of is not. That extra pressure gives them the ability to get a thief steal, and that thief is pretty protected. It will probably get away, so Sequoia will finally get their thief steal. The Ballista, however, is slowly coming out, and Chappington is able to steal that precious, precious side village that we keep talking about. And we see a dragon coming out for Sequoia, looking pretty good. That'll help against all these pikes. And Dark Mercia just slowly rotating to the other side of the map. If we check the economy, we can see that Chappington is ending their turn with a slight lead, and they have flipped the side village, though I'm not sure if they'll be able to capture it. Sequoia has 2 balloons, and it's important to measure how well Sequoia is doing by the number of balloons they have. Kind of like you can tell if I'm winning by the fact of whether or not I have a dragon. Everybody's got their thing. We see Sequoia dump a bunch of pikes under Emmerich Crystal, put 2 mages behind it, kind of come forward with that harpy, kind of saying, hey, the middle of the map is mine now. What is Chappington going to do about it? We see Chappington drop some pikes as well, and wagon their thief closer to home. Can't quite get all the way, and the Ballista slowly inches forward into a really nice position. It's a little bit at risk, but nothing can hit it this turn at the very least. We see a lot of things coming forward. Chappington recapturing that village and kind of shuffling around in a defensive position. Sequoia does have them pinned for the moment. Sequoia taking advantage of the fact that Chappington is a bit pinned, going in to reclaim some territory here, and finally getting that deposit, which lets them get a dragon and double dog. Really nice turn for Sequoia. Capturing a bunch of villages across the map, Sequoia has evened up the economy advantage that Chappington had, even dealing some damage to Chappington's economy, going really deep with Emmerich. Really, really deep. Is Emmerich safe there? We see Dark Mercia go for the groove. This is critical. Emmerich is not on crystal, they're on plains, and this groove will further eliminate some of the defense that Emmerich might have had. The dog takes out the crystal, removing the defense for the rest of these units, and the sword goes in on damaged mage, doing some damage. Oh, we see a Ballista hit go into Emmerich. Really nice hit. Dog hit goes in. 34. A dog crit. I think it would take a max roll to kill Emmerich. No! No! Wait, was I reading the numbers wrong? Was I reading the numbers wrong, or did Chappington get a max roll on that last attack? Either way, amazing lethal right there. Dark Mercia Groove, Ballista, Dog, and Dog Crit. That just happened! That just happened! Chappington lethal Sequoia using Dark Mercia and a Ballista in a tournament game. That just happened! Oh, wow! That actually just happened! Alright, this is as good a place as any to end it. That was an amazing game. Taking a look at the stats, it looks like a lot of the matches for round 1 were tied. I'm not going to particularly report on anything, who's winning, who's doing really well, surprisingly, etc., until we get a little further. But if you have any questions about the format, the games, the bans, anything at all, please let me know in the descriptions below, and welcome to Wargroove.